Welcome everyone. I'm in conversation with Mr. Vineet Gautam, the bestseller India CEO and who's been in this business and holding this position from 11 and a half years. He was telling me that he took up this mantle when it was just 3 stores in India, and I don't know how many count because whichever city I've gone to or whichever shopping center I've gone to, the bestseller brands have always occupied the frontline position. So he can actually tell us how many stores do they have and what's their vision of building the India story further. Before that, I would really like to thank our partners and sponsors for today's session, which is Green Honchos. Green Honchos is a full stack e-commerce technology enabled company that partners with retail businesses to grow them online. Cartmax is their enterprise grade e-commerce platform that manages significant growth with omni-channel and hyperlocal enablements. Their performance-driven marketing solutions have scaled several retail brands on their DTC roadmap. I would request the AV of Green Honchos to be played. Thank you so much for accepting coming on our leadership series. We've chosen to talk to the industry leaders who set the trend for the fashion retail in India, and who better than you? 11 and a half years leading a fashion brand, seen a phenomenal journey. I was talking about it that every big shopping center that I've visited in the last couple of years, whether it's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 cities, the bestseller group brands are really at the forefront in leading the fashion quotient of that mall. So we need 11 and a half years. Tell us what's really keeps you going every day to build a fashion brand in India. I'm sure we've seen a lot of things come up and go in these 11 and a half years. We've seen a lot of international brands come in, and a lot of them have not survived, right? Really seen a lot of the brands have not been able to, or the Indian customers not been able to accept it. But what makes bestseller continue to tick in India? And what makes you get up every day in the morning and lead the charge?
Thank you so much, Pankaj, for having me. Thank you, Mapping India, for having me also. I think it's an amazing question. I ask this to myself every day. But I think fashion in India is a great journey. And yes, the bestseller in India has been at the forefront of it. We came in 11 and a half years back. And actually, I joined them 11 and a half years back. They were here in India before that for a year. We had 3 stores that time. You wanted to have a count of the stores. I'll give it to you. We have 265 stores today, which we manage on our own. We have 38 partner stores. And then we have about 1,500 shop-in-shops across the country that we manage on ourselves, plus a large e-commerce business that of our own. And we work with also partners across all platforms. It's been an amazing journey. I think India is a amazing country. The taste change every few kilometers, and I think that is the most exciting part of it. As the food changes, I think the fashion taste also changes so much. So I think it's very interesting. Every day in the morning you get up with a new challenge, and I think as much as you do, you still don't reach that perfection. We're saying, okay, from today we've achieved everything. I think there's something to do, and I think that's the drive that keeps it going. The hunger to do better, hunger to bring better fashion to the country, to the consumers. And I think a large part of that is also, I think, how the consumers are placed in India. I think we are at a tipping point in this country in the last 10 years, where the youth of this country is actually trying to now tell what they want. They demand it. Okay, there's no more time that what you supply people will buy. I think it's changing, and I think social media, digital media, and also cheap internet. I think that's a game changer in this country, which we don't see across the globe. And I think that's allowed a lot of consumer to get great exposure. That also brings a lot of responsibility to brands like us to listen to the consumer. I think you asked a lot of international retailers have come and gone and not survived, and how do we take? I think it's all about understanding the consumer and being able to taper the need as per the consumer. I think what I think is that a lot of people don't understand the country. They just think it's a very large market, 1.3 billion people, and I think everyone is shopping fashion. I think that's the thought process from where they come in, and I think that's where it gets challenged. We need to really segment and understand where we want to operate. And I think we've done many failures, but I think there's a lot of success also around what are things we have done. We have 4 very strong brands, 3 new emerging brands, and we can talk about that in a little later. But I think today all the brands are part of the lifestyle of a consumer, and I think that's very important. Are you part of the consumer journey? Are you part of her thinking? And I think that's been something which we've always tried to look at it. Are we part of their lifestyle? And if you are part of the lifestyle, and I think then you can associate with the consumer, and that's where understanding consumer need is going to be very, very essential. I'm not taking the things about how the organization has to be built and all that is everyone can do it. A lot of people do it right. But I think what people forget is what is my consumer promise? And I think we on a day one decided that this is going to be our consumer promise, and we've stuck to it. It was tough. At many times, you thought that you want to really change it. And I think we stuck to it and said, no, this is where our consumer is. This is what we promised to the consumer, and this is what we need to deliver. In a crux, if I have to say, that's been our journey. Also, from a bestseller perspective, globally, India is a very critical market. So I think it's also a principles belief in India. India and China are the only SBUs outside Europe. Otherwise, Europe is the one company, but we are completely independently run. I think that also allows us to do things locally, which is important for the market. And I think a large part of, I think local is one word which people speak so randomly in all retail conferences. But I think it's a real true meaning of having success in India is how you can manage your global look, feel, and appeal to and customize it to the Indian consumer. And I think we've tried to do that a lot, but still a lot needs to be done. And I think that excites every day in the morning to go down and do something new.
You're a very pertinent point which you mentioned, Vineet, is the trust with the parent organization or the parent brand and customizing to India. We all talk about a case study and talking about everybody makes a relevant point and saying that in India, for example, McDonald's had to come in and had not to sell beef, which is globally, they are known for their cheeseburgers, and sell aloo tikki burgers. But nobody talks about a big case study about or quotes from the fashion industry. And I can take an example from your business as well, which you have really stuck for 11.5 years. I'm sure you've done something absolutely right to appeal to the Indian market. Tell me the biggest challenge, which I have seen with clients or industry partners or worked with certain brands as well, is to gain the trust of the international principals. Because normally what I find is that when international companies come in, they try and tell their story and saying the way they've run internationally their businesses. So from your experience, 11.5 years, I'm sure you would have spent a lot of time gaining their trust and explaining to them that India is different. You can pick up global practices, but it'll have to be changed or adapted. I don't know what you would have done in your business, but how do you gain that trust over the last 11.5 years to convince them that India is different, or is India really very different from what they do internationally?
I think this is a very relevant question, and it's not an easy task. Let me put it very clearly, because international brands are successful in many countries, and they're successful because they're repeating what has been the success of it, the reason for their success or the product success or the product story. I think bestseller that way is a little bit that stands out, and I think I must give credit to our founders, Anas, who's the CEO now and the owner, of how I think day one they decided that India needs to be independent, and I think that's the very big ask. It doesn't come easy. I think, as I said, India and China, we are a complete SBU. We do everything that is required in India. And I think that's where I think you are able to take decisions that are important and relevant to the country. Like the brand ethos remains same, the brand guidelines remain same, our stores look feel remain same, because that you don't need to localize, because that's where the consumer is looking for an international experience, right? But the product that the consumer has to buy, if it doesn't fit her, right, and especially for women, and we have 60% business from women's wear business. So if that product doesn't fit her right, or if the color is not suited to the country, you can't just do anything about it. And I think that is where the localization plays the most important part. I think it also is a part of how you create the organization here. How much is the international organization able to trust what is coming out of this? And I think it also needs to be supported by data. It's very easy to go and commit and not follow through. And I think that is also very, very important. I see fancy business presentation and then they just all fall apart because the people, right, they don't have the right people to either execute it. And I think one of the biggest things we did is we put up a founding team which was very strong, and we've been able to retain that 80% of the founding team. They've also grown along as I have, as the organization has. And I think when they see that the people are believing in a goal, right, and I think that's when they also try to trust you more, because every year if you're going to go and tell a new story, okay, this year we didn't do anything, next year we're going to do this, the other day, it's not going to work. So in bestseller perspective, and I can say about bestseller, we operate very differently. We don't make 10-year plans. We don't have 5-year plans. We have a working plan, which is a vision document that we have for ourselves where we want to be. And we keep relooking at it every year and recalibrating. I think recalibration is very important, because end of the day, market dynamics is something that decides how well you are doing. If you're doing well, you can accelerate. If you're not doing well, you need to take course correction. But I think people keep making the same mistake. And someday the trust actually goes off and says, either they don't believe in the team or they don't believe in the business or the model itself. And I think also that is very critical, the right business model. Like we were very clear for day one, we want to run a retail company in India. So if you see, we don't have franchises. We just have 30 of them, which we started 3 years back, especially for tier 3, tier 4 markets where FDI doesn't allow us to open our own stores in multi-brand format. So we have partners there. But I think we very clearly realized 11.5 years back, the consumer behavior is going to change and they're wanting experience. And if you're not able to control that experience, it's going to be a big, big challenge. And I think that's where we put the blueprint of the business. And we are a very highly retail centric organization. I can only tell you 1,500 shop-in-shop we man and run on our own. We don't have a distributor in between. We don't have a franchisee in between. All these 1,500 shop-in-shop are fed stocks by us. The stock we control, with discounts we control the people, we control the furniture, fixtures, and the way they look and merchandise. So it's a very large commitment that you need to make, but it also helps you build the brand, build the trust of the consumer. And I think if that model works out, I think people can see the results. And I think sometimes results is just not P&L. Sometimes it's also about how your NPS scores are, how your customers are talking about you. How do you stand when you're comparing between the peers brand that we have? And I think we came at the same time at Zara and H&M came in. Zara today is in 8 cities. We are in 128 cities in terms of presence. H&M, which came in 5-6 years back, they are in about 35 odd cities now. So I think I can just tell you that, and India is not the top 10 cities of this country. India is the top 100 cities of this country. And our entire focus for the next 5 years is also going to be how do we capture and bring more revenue from the top 100 cities in the country. And that's where we are focused at.
So, I think retail and I'm sure you're the retail guru, but from a customer standpoint, I think it's not, after a while, retail has evolved to say it's not about product buying, because I may need a pair of jeans, but it's ultimately all about the experience. 1,500 touch points. How are you able to give the experience to the customer? Because you said you're putting the merchandising, which is probably similar, or maybe adapt to a local market a little bit here and there, maybe stack some more, and because of weather is also very different in India, whether from between north and south as well. But 1,500 touch points. Stores look identical because when you build it once, you can always have national teams building it up. But how are you able to give the same experience in a Chennai and a Guwahati?
No easy answers to that.
I mean, what's the mantra to do that? Because I'm sure 1,500 touch points means what? Probably 4,000 or 5,000 sales associates?
So we are about 3,800 sales associates in the country.
Wow,
Because
3,800, yeah.
it's 1,500 is just shop and shop. We have 260 stores of our own, plus
Hmm.
franchisee stores that we have. So overall, we have about 1,800 touch points in the country today. So it's about 3,800 odd people that we man, plus the office, the warehouse, and everything. We have about 4,500 people in the country today. I think it's also, see, I think it started from what our customer promise is going to be. See, everyone needs to realize that what is their core strength going to be. We can make the same product that Zara makes, or an H&M makes, or a Levi's makes, or a Tommy Hilfiger makes, but they have a brand, something which already is established. Bestseller brands were not established brands, right? If you go to Europe also, you will see us a lot more in Scandinavia than you see it in Europe. Typically Indian consumer looks at 2-3 markets a lot more. It's Dubai, where we are not present. If they look at London, we are not present, or we have very small presence. At least we had very small presence when we started. And then there's Southeast Asia and others, where also we don't have presence. Our strength is Scandinavia and China, which actually people don't look at from a fashion perspective. So the intent was that if I have to compete with Zara, right, even if I pick the same product, why should someone come to me? And I think that's where we said our differentiator is going to be customer experience. If you walk down to my store today, I can proudly say that there will be someone who will greet you. There will be someone who will talk to you, understand what your need is, and help you to find that product and find maybe multiple products, and then allow you the time and experience to try it on. And I think that's something which we had to bring as a core strength of ours. And I think that took a lot of time. First, you need to build the best practices. Then you need to replicate the best practices. You need to hire for them. You need to train for them. And you also need to sometimes take calls of that who is not fitting into that. And it's not an easy ask. Behind 3,800 people, we have a sales organization of 100 plus people. We have a visual merchandising organization of 60 people, because the stores also need to look similar. The merchandising needs to look similar. And there are shop and shop in markets where we can't even go. So how do you bring technology? So I think there's a multiple part of it. And I think credit should also go to the team, which is there. I think when we decide something, I think we are very sure of what we want. I think it's a great execution team. We do it well. And I think we are able to repeat the things we do well. I'll give you an example of I think you must have heard about something called Super Saturday. Which is a one-day event we used to do at Linking Road. The first Super Saturday was planned in 7 days. And we didn't expect the kind of traffic. The next Super Saturday took us 30 days to plan, because we wanted to do better it. Now it takes about 3 months to plan it, because we have the experiences, we know what works, what doesn't work, and how can we better it. So I think it's also about ensuring that we can get a better experience. And that's the core of our thought process. How can I give a better experience? Because everyone will give the product similar, and someone will give it cheaper also. But if you want to give consumer a value for money, then it's a lot of things. It's about product, it's about the promise of value for money, it's about the experience. And I think what happens post-purchase. I think, how do you handle that?
Right. Very interesting, Vineet. And I'm just trying to pick up cues. And I did have a question and agenda which I'd made and ask you questions, but I think I'll pick up a lot more cues, because it's getting more interesting on what pointers you're sharing. And I think a lot of people who watch this will like to hear from you. You couple of both 2 or 3 times when you talked a lot about your team and people. And I think that's a very key, that any big business or best businesses are built by if you have good people. And I wrote this back, somebody interviewed me and I told them as well. I said, you may be able to build the best product, but if you don't have a good team, the product will fail, because they will not reach out, or the experience will never get communicated. You can still get away with, I'm not saying the best, but you can still get away with a good product if you have a good team, and you can be very successful as a business, and the matrix of success can be varied. You talked a lot about your team. You said 80% of your team, which started working with you 11.5 years back, or early on when you took up the leadership position and bestseller, continues to be with you. I've seen this industry churn a lot, and I've interacted with a lot of people and the others. But Vineet, what keeps them with you? And I mean, not as a CEO or as Vineet Gautam, what keeps them at bestsellers? Why do these people always want to be for 11.5 years? It's really talking about, in a millennial generation, you're talking about it saying, listen, spending their lifetime. So what keeps them?
So I think I don't have a ready answer for it, but I think it is a multiple of things that we have to do for it. I think first is the trust in people. I think if you start with the first belief that there's trust with people, and the other thing is that everyone comes to work to deliver the best possible they can do. And if you can believe in that, that people will have bad days. And I think that adds a lot of people to understand that this is a culturally strong organization. They want to be, they genuinely care for me. I think more than anything else, people are more concerned, does this organization care for me? Do the people around me care for me? Do I have great friends at office? And I think because we spend half of our time, which we are alive, rest of the time we're sleeping, or in the office, in with these colleagues. So if we don't have a best friend, and I think that's a matrix we track every year. Do you have best friend in on the office? 88% of people have say yes about it, which is a great achievement for us. It didn't happen overnight. We had to do a lot. We had to build a lot of. I think the other part is what is your culture? What do you want to stand out for? While you are building a brand and you're communicating to the consumer, what are you communicating to your employees? And how strong is the communication layer? And I can only tell you that every year, twice a year, I go and try to meet every employee possible. Wherever we can consolidate them. I can't reach almost everyone, but 80% of employees I go and address myself. We call it the rock on parties or something where we tell them what's happening in the organization. A lot of people shy away from showing numbers to the organization, but because people will come to know in the market, doesn't matter. It's our number. They need to know which part of the journey they are. And I think the other thing is purpose. What is the purpose that you are there? And I think when we started the organization, I think the purpose was to set up a great retail organization because people around us were all franchisee business. It was very easy, very tempting to build another franchise business. But I think we decided we want to build a retail organization, which no one had built in India. And I think that purpose, and then you can find like-minded people who want to believe in the purpose. And I think also purpose needs to keep evolving because that happened a few years back. And then what is the new purpose for it? And then how are you able to get everyone to believe in that one purpose? Because the challenge in large organization is that the purpose starts to get defeated. Everyone has to have their own purpose. So then, which is fine. Every department will have their own purpose. Brand will have their own purpose. But as an organization, what is our purpose? So I think our culture, we talk it a lot time called, we are the odd culture. We call it the ODD culture. And we hire for it, we train for it. And we also evaluate people on performance on the ODD culture. And it's not the odd people we are looking out. It is own, dare, and deliver. There are three terms we call it in our organization. So everything we do, whether it's our competency framework, it's a performance management system, hiring system, or training, we look at these three elements. That are we hiring a person who will own that? Because he's at the number of stores that we are operating, there is no ownership. I cannot operate it from here. I need owners sitting in every store, shop, and that's why maybe you will see that differential, I think, experience when you go there because they believe this is my store. I want to do better for it. I think that ownership is very important. I think dare, why? Because India is an evolving country. We need to experiment. And I think we should be also ready to fail. So that is very, very important that the failure is not taken up as a failure of a person. I think it's taken as a learning. Definitely you should not make the same failures again and again. Then you're stupid. But I think, and the other is to deliver what you promise. So we call it that promises are non-negotiable in our organization. Any promise you make, whether it's a sales number or a customer promise or anything, that is non-negotiable. You need to stand up for it. And then, so I think it also takes a while. It's taken us a few years to build it. But today, a lot of people join us for that culture. The open environment in which you can come and talk to anyone. We don't have cabins in our office. It's a flat organization, completely flat office, beautiful office. I think also it's about the environment that you're able to create them. Are they able to come and speak up their mind? Because everyone, especially the millennials, they don't want to be told every day what morning has to be done. It should come from within. Otherwise, they don't want to come back to work. And I think especially in the times like COVID, where a lot of things I hear that people saying, oh, we all want to work from home. I get requests more and more that we want to come to office. Can you allow more people to come to office? So I think it's a very different culture that we've tried to create. We are very proud of it. It's tough also to maintain it. But I think it's a mix of a lot of things that you create. End of the day, I think the main thing is though people believe in the organization purpose. And if you are able to have that, and if people are in line with it and your commitments and actions spell about that, I think it's easier done than said. But it's easier said than done.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a very proud thing to have built an organization which has got so many touch points, a very, very successful international brand or a company, retail company becoming so large, and large is not necessarily because you have more touch points, but being able to have a very successful run for 11 and a half years, and you're poised to grow further as well. I'm sure you are, and build an organization culture, which you're talking about, where people are wanting to come back to work, are staying with you for so long, and also making it as an owner, that they're connecting with the organization. Tell me, there have been, but still very few companies which have been very successful, particularly in the retail fashion domain. And let's not talk about what's failed, but I'm saying if there are a next set of organizations or brands looking to enter India, because I'm sure the market is large enough for a lot of other people to come in as well.
True.
From your experience, what are the 2 or 3 things? One, you said about go local, is adapt to India. But what are the opportunities and the caveats would you like to share with them? They should be looking at, because we talked about a Zara or a H&M. They're still really on the surface still, and they're not there really deep into the market. Versus, I'm saying, compare it to Reliance Trends or a Westside or a Fab India for that matter, who really penetrated like you into the Indian market and built a brand where people understand it about a brand philosophy. So what are these international brands should be doing in India when they come in? What if you were to give me like 2 or 3 quick points for them to think about when they come to India?
I think the first thing they need to come, and before coming to India, they need to understand India is a long play. It's not about making money tomorrow morning. It's not going to happen. Maybe 1 or 2 companies can do it. Everyone cannot do it. It takes a time. It requires investment. And if you do not have that horizon, I think don't come to India, because our consumption is not as high as European consumption or American consumption. Our consumption is far lower. Our per capita GDP, you can look at it, and our per capita income, you can look at it. So if you look at that, the consumption is not there. And then the other thing is, what segment are you entering? If you are going to enter into a mass premium segment, then you need to know what can you do, because everyone looks at 1.3 billion people in this country. Out of this, 90% people don't even shop at retail stores, or maybe 92% people don't shop at retail. We are only actually currently organized retail-wise, maybe 10% of the consumers we are able to address. So I think from that 10%, what is the pie that you want to look at it? And all the names that you said are all value players. That's where the heart of India is. It's 1,000 rupees, right? It's about $13, $12. Now, in that $12 stuff, what can you do in India? And then if you have a model which you're importing everything, then it doesn't work. You need to be here. You need to have a great strength of sourcing here. You need to have a great product depth here, because, and I think that is very, very critical. So I think one is get your model right. Maybe it will not happen in the first day. It takes time to get the local sourcing going, but you should be ready for it. Because I'll give you an example of when we entered Vermoda, with Vermoda in India, and because that was the brand I launched before that Jack and Johnson only had already launched. We realized that there was at a price in which we had to launch, but we have our importing everything, and we have very heavy import duties. But if I take the brand up 40% because of the import duty, I will never be able to correct it in the consumer mind. It takes ages for it to correct. And we take a conscious call that the first 2 years we will lose money, because our gross margin will not allow us to operate retail. Right. So we knew that, but that's the investment we put in the brand. Today, Vermoda is one of the most successful women's wear brands in this country. Makes quite good of a money. Maybe we recover that money also. But if the mindset is not there, if you're from day one saying, okay, I will go and operate 30 or 40 stores in this country, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be easy. And if in India you have to be successful, you need to decide what segment and what can you do. If you want to be in luxury, I think rich luxury, today, these days, it's a lot. Then you can open 10, 15 stores in this country and it's done. There's no markets, right? You will not even find that third market or 15th market to open a store. And I think people must realize that. I think we come and overcome it a lot. I think we overcome it and under deliver. And I think that's the biggest challenge that happens. So I think first is get your model right, know where you want to operate, and stick to it. It takes a while for consumers to understand where you are. And so initially it is very easy. You can come and open 5, 10 stores. You'll see huge success because everyone in India wants to buy the next international brand that has launched. 6 months later, the story becomes very, very different. And I think that's where consistency of what you're offering becomes very, very important. The other, I think we have great talent in this country. A lot of Indian leaders are today heading best companies in the world. I don't need to take names. I think trust in the leadership of the country. Find a good leader. And I think believe and trust and make a long-term plan with that leader. I think that becomes a larger challenge where we send in people from outside. They don't understand the currency, they don't understand the culture, and then nothing works. So either the team struggles or they struggle. And I think so. I think it's very important to have a local team, maybe supervised by someone. I'm fine. It's okay with that. But I think you need to have a local team who has the decision-making power. If you're not going to have decision-making power here, then you're going to only operate 7, 8 cities, 10 cities. It's not possible to control things from Europe or America or any part of the world sitting there because you don't understand the consumer behavior here. And it's a very tough customer here, demanding consumer. If you go to Europe, I think the taste remains same across Europe. Nothing changes. Everyone buys similar kind of product. It's an easy market. You come to here, even in Gujarat, you will have 10 cities with 10 trends and 10 different requirements. I'm just saying, and Gujarat is a small state. Imagine bigger states. You go to Uttar Pradesh and it's East Uttar Pradesh, West Uttar Pradesh, and everywhere the taste is different. So it's required to understand. The other thing is, I think the model of retailing. Franchising is very easy in India. I thought you also had a question on franchising, if I remember. But you don't want franchise operators here. You find investing franchises here. Right? There's no one who wants to take the product risk or give you the insight of what the local market wants it. They are just investing and they're waiting for some fixed returns to come, or some of them are also operating. And I think that becomes a very large challenge, that how are you able to work with them very strongly to get that insight of what's required in that market. And market could only not be just about a new style. It could only be about size mix. It could be a price point or a promotion or something else that is required. And I think that is very important thing. And I think the third and the last is, which I think a lot of people struggle, is managing inventories. They buy too much, they don't sell enough, and then this entire thing comes to haunt people, and then it doesn't work. So I think the last one is more tactical required, but I think people need to keep focus on how much inventory do they have, because that's something that is pulling down majority of the retailers in this country.
And you talked about, the global, when they're coming to India, but, when we, as we all read the same newspapers and media, and we just look at the top 3 headlines and we start making opinions about it. And you see that, oh, this big brand in the US or in Europe has filed Chapter 11 or a bankruptcy in the others. So as a bestseller group internationally, one is India, great success story. What keeps it going, or what's the vision of the brand from an international standpoint? Because we obviously, as I said, everybody tries to pick up the top 3 news, which if it is good news, then you start making an opinion the world is good. If there are 3 bad news, you start thinking the entire sector is bad. Like, you read about 3 big brands in the US filing Chapter 11, or you say that the retail industry is doomed. Today, I read an article where the LVMH CFO talks about, in saying that, very interesting, he said that retail is always going to be about stores, because the experience will always be there. The retail digital world will always coexist, because the experience comes from the store and flows at home at some stage, and where the customer gets used to the experience and he knows what he's buying. So what keeps the bestseller story going worldwide?
I think a good part of bestseller is that the core belief in the fashion business. We don't do any other business. The only business we have is fashion. The other thing is, I think we have very strong brand globally, a great team up there in Denmark. Again, people working for years. I know few of the brand directors who are 20 years, 25 years in the company there. So I think consistency there also helps. The other is, we just don't enter a market because we want to enter a market. When we enter a market, we commit to it and we stay there for long, unless nothing works, and then it's a different discussion. But I think the other is, I think we believe we are very early adopters of trends. I think fast fashion was one thing that we adopted very quickly. The other is digital. I think our digital journey started maybe 10 years back with Anna's belief that digital is going to be the next space. He invested into ASOS. He picked up stake in Zalando. I think it also brings a lot of learning. And I think, like for us, we started online in this country 6 years back, which was hardly anything that time. But we believed into it because we saw the early trends globally, what was happening. Indian consumers were much more younger. The data was much more easily available. The smartphones were much more cheaply available. We realized that this trend is going to be. So I think it's also about adapting to the new trend quickly. How agile is the organization? how agile is your IT? And I think that becomes very, very critical. And I think very large groups failing because of agility. I think that is a strength of bestseller. We've also tried to learn from that every day. But I think that's very critical. And the other is core belief in the fashion business, that this business is going to stay. Uh, I don't agree with what you said on the LVMH, that a large part of fashion will or retail business will happen at brick and mortar. But I think a lot of engagement of consumer flirting with the brand starts pretty early on the digital commerce. So how do you build one commerce now, whether it happens at retail, whether it happens on online, happens on social, how do you bring that up quickly? I think that building, I think, is very critical. From our perspective, we bestseller wise, we started digital journey much, much earlier. Today, a large part of our business is digital. When the pandemic hit, just coming to pandemic, we could actually, majority of our business globally is wholesale, where you have to show a sample or a product and then can only buy. We could actually move to digital buying in 15, 20 days because we already had something that we were using or trying. We just had to ramp it up. Right. So it just helped you communicate with your partners, your distributors, or your retailers, or your wholesalers, which a lot of people struggled to figure out what is the next thing to do to figure out how to. So I think that those are things that are already very, very keyed into the brand's ethos or the company's thinking process. We have a small executive team which works with Anas. I'm part of that. Only 16 people across the globe. We meet every quarter. We discuss what's new, what's happening, and we are ready to invest and take the risk of it. There are failures, but I think if we're not experimenting enough, we're not trying new things, then it becomes a very, very large thing. So the company is ready to evolve, but the core belief in fashion is very, very large.
And so, India is so much, you talked about so much of talent, a big success story with your brand in India, and you adapted locally as well. Do you think there will be or has there been a success where you've evolved or developed something in India in the bestseller stable, which has you've been able to export it to the international markets? Maybe a product or a segment in your portfolio.
So
is there anything coming out of India to the world? Are we giving something back?
Yes, a lot of our designs, we also have a local design team who designs. So a lot of our designs are shared. Good part is it just becomes a test market, and then we can share the success, and then they can replicate it on a larger scale. So a lot of design sharing, product sharing happens. On the technology front, we speak a lot. I think in few things we are a little bit ahead, they are a little bit behind. On a few things they are much ahead than us. Like social commerce. I think everyone is talking about e-commerce, but I think social commerce was something which we started believing 2.5, 3 years back, thinking that WhatsApp will become a very large part of it. We saw what happened with WeChat in China, because China is also a big part of our business. And we realized that WhatsApp is going to be very big for India. So we went on WhatsApp or commerce about 18 months back. And then they think, okay, this could be another one. And now they are also looking at and evaluating it. So I think we do share a lot of knowledge. See, bestseller globally is also just not one company. Every brand is a company, and very large business. So everyone learns and see what fits their business and how do we take it. So there are things that we share. There are a lot of things obviously we get from them, and we try to learn from them. Pandemic really helped us a lot because they were early on the trend on pandemic, and they could see the recovery faster. So last year, seeing the recovery, we could plan our recovery. Helped us a lot. So I think there are a few things both sides that work.
We talked about successes, but nobody talks about, and you talked about, there have been 11.5 years, you've seen some failures as well. One key learning from one of your failures, which you want to could share to the group?
I think one vicinity is don't take customer for granted. I think that's something we need to learn the hard way sometimes. And even because we don't know when have you taken the customer for granted. And I think the customer comes and tells you, man, wake up. I'll give you examples where we believe we are the most trendy and we've launched all the trends, and and then the customer calls up us and says, but this trend is all over globe. Why are you not doing it? So there are people who are, and I think sometimes we think that we know everything. And I think that's working with partners is very critical. And I think that also brings a lot of learning, especially when we work with our department stores. I think so. We are also sometimes we think, okay, we are a retail company, we know everything, we can run everything on our own. But I think there are failures that come in. And I think a large failure is in terms of sometimes happens is because of the large distribution that you have, that sometimes everything just doesn't percolate as you thought till the last mile. So how to improve that communication internally is very, very critical. And yeah, there'll be many cases, but I'd rather keep it broad-based rather than coming. But I think I'll give you example. Okay, I'll give you one example. We thought that because we are spread across the country, let's have an employee chatbot. We launched it 4 years back, an employee chatbot. We picked up the best chatbot available in the country through a big technology partner. We launched it for employees, thinking everyone will go on the chatbot and ask things. We got some 100 queries in a whole month. And then we realized, okay, people still want that personal touch. They want to pick up the phone and speak to someone. They don't want to go on the chatbot. It's not that we said, okay, we failed once, we'll not do it. Now we're doing it again. But maybe times have changed. Now chatbot has become much more. So I think sometimes
because you
bring
started
things,
experiencing in your customer, like when I go to a Vodafone or Airtel app, there I'm first interacting with a chatbot. So I've got used to it. Now I'll be very open to myself if it's there in my organization as well.
Yeah. So we brought it very early. It failed miserably. I think we thought that 50% of queries will start getting handled by the chatbot. It'll be like we launched it with a lot of fanfare internally. It didn't work at all. So we had to scrap it. And I think you have to realize when to scrap things also and say, okay, we've lost money. It's okay. Keep it, shut it down. I think so. We learned that hard way that it didn't work. We're launching it again now. It should be launched in about 3 weeks from now. Let's see how it goes.
Okay. Some words of advice for the smaller retailer groups. In India, as we say in Hindi में कहते हैं हमारे यहाँ पे दुकानदारी is the main profession of India. Every nook and corner there is somebody, a small pan wala or somebody trying to sell some chips or biscuits or the others. But there are also lots of local smaller businesses who've kind of made a mark for themselves, but have not been able to go up to the next level. So is there opportunity lost for them, or India still has a big opportunity for the smaller retailers, or particularly retailers who are in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, or tier 4, even tier 5 towns? Is there still an opportunity for them to probably go to the next level? For everybody has a next level to go reach out to, right?
I think the organized retail in this country is just minuscule part of what we have. So I think, and the international players or large players are only, even if you add it up, maybe 10% of what the business could be. 90% of pie which is not addressed, or we don't understand it well. I think the strength of the local retailer should be how well they understand the customer. I think they should not look at what the large guys are doing. They should know what their customer is and try to work around the product offering, the experience. I think because they have so much trust with the customer. The customer has so much trust with them. I think they should try to leverage that, find the product and requirements there. And there will always be gaps. Large companies will always centralize a lot more. There will be no power, not too much power with the guy locally to decide so much stuff. And I think that's where the opportunity is. And other thing is, try a little bit of technology, like normal WhatsApp commerce. Like during the last lockdown, even the Kirana shop was on WhatsApp and shop selling on like a digital. I think a lot of time you don't need a fancy IT thing. You just need a basic something that you can work through. And I think customers will get it, because your customer wants also that. He wants that personal touch. I think what I am seeing is a lot of smaller retailers are trying to look at what the bigger guys are doing. And that's where I think this big circle starts in, and that you don't have the money, or you don't have the understanding, or you don't have the organization to do it. And then everything goes down. And if you are in one city, does not matter. Try to do better there or in that state, but don't spread yourself too thin. I see a lot of regional players wanting to become national suddenly because they believe then they'll get valuations or they'll get money, and this circle just that doesn't end, and then they fail very, very miserably, because your strength was in understanding that customer. Now suddenly, if you operate in Rajasthan, you've begun to go and understand what works in Uttar Pradesh. It's going to be a world of difference there, or maybe Haryana next door. So once you've understood the Rajasthan thing, or example, Rajasthan is just an example, and you understand that you've been able to manage that market, then only step out. I think people are trying to do too many things. That becomes a very, very large challenge, because they don't have the organization depth or the risk-taking ability also, because they don't have the control, they don't have those, and it becomes a very, very large challenge. I see a lot of regional players doing this every day. I hear them, they're opening stores here. I know a partner of ours who used to operate Gujarat suddenly went to Jaipur and said, okay, I'll open here. Or someone went to Hyderabad to open, and then you start to fail suddenly. I think,
or the pressure of one failure, it puts a lot of pressure on your existing portfolio.
Yeah, because you don't have that cash flow. Yeah, you don't have the cash flow. And then what happens is, the mindset is, I put money into it. So I let me nurture this pain for long. They don't want to even shut that pain. Like an international retailer or a big retailer say, yeah, it's money lost. Let's shut it, move on. For a smaller guy to take that call is not easy because it's hard earned money of his or her. And then they keep pouring more money, more money. And then whatever was working also stops working because things take so much energy out of the system because it's losing money and then it just doesn't work. So my only take is be there where you are, understand the consumer, address the consumer more, expand your categories there because there's always going to be a need that big players are not able to identify. Even a Reliance Trends maybe is not able to identify, or someone Trent is not able to identify. So you will always have that segment. And you see mom and pop shop, people said before the pandemic, the kirana shops, the mom and pop shops are all done. They will not survive the large retailers in big cities, but they were the saviors of the pandemic, right? We all know a local guy who will just, you call him up and they will come and deliver everything. And I think they've evolved because they were pushed so much to hard that they had to evolve. So don't wait for that time. Try to do it now and don't go for a fancy IT system because your organization is not ready for it. Buy something small, run it slowly. I know so many of my friends do this and I keep telling them, but end of the day, everyone is trying to become bigger. It's okay, but do it slowly.
I think also you rightly said, you just hinted about it, but I think you rightly said is not chase the dream of a valuation or a large platform and talk about real businesses, because eventually every business somewhere down the line has to make money, even if you are able to pass it on to someone else. But eventually it has to be about somewhere down the line has to make money. You can invest for a certain time, but eventually it has to start showing light of day.
What happens is what you said, Pankaj. You open the paper and you say, this guy got so much valuation, that guy got so much valuation, despite losing money. You think you will also get it tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. So,
I know we're running out of time, but I just have one last question. And this is a little more personal, Vineet. You've been in the business. What is you as a person? We would like to hear about you as Vineet as a person, not as a CEO, bestseller, or the fashion guy of the country. You're the face of fashion for India as a business head. But we want to know about Vineet as a person. What is Vineet as a person like?
So I think I have genuine love for people. Let me put it that way. And I love to see people getting successful. So it's just not about my organization or people, but generally whoever I know, them getting successful brings a lot of joy to me. I'm a hotelier by education, though I've not done anything. So I definitely have a dream someday to open my own something in that space. But I don't know when that will happen. The other is I love to travel. I love to travel a lot. I love to drive a lot. So that is what I am as a person. Whenever I get spare time, I go out, drive, go down to see more places. And I think that kicks you in and also refreshes you. And I think sometimes great ideas also come during those times because you have the mind space to do this. But I think that generally I like people and like to talk to people, like to help people. And that's what I am.
So how much time do you get time to take off? Say, do you get time in a week to take time off for yourself? Or is like, because retailing is maximum happens on the weekend, right? I think 60% of sales happen on a weekend.
I think 50%, I will say 50% was on weekend, but I think I don't think we work so much on the weekend now. It used to be. Obviously, pandemic is a different situation. We are working almost every day, almost. But in a normal time, weekend can be easily something that we could spend with family, go out, spend time out. And I think as a part of our culture, we try to keep weekends free for our people so that Monday to Friday, they are completely focused. So there's some work that will keep happening, but it's not, hopefully it's not taking majority of the time is the intent. But there are different days that you have to work for. But so weekends are generally something that give you.
So you're not one of those CEOs we keep reading about who says I respond to emails 1 o'clock in the night, middle of the night as well.
I do.
You do? Okay. Sorry.
I think
you do that, is it?
But yeah, but I think see in the retail, I think it's about everyday fire. Every day that fire has to be. I think you have to get that fire every day in the morning, get it down in the evening, and then have it again. So you can't take the retailer out of business every day. It's very tough. I know there are people who do it, and I think someday, maybe, hopefully, I can also. But I still do respond very quickly to emails and WhatsApp. sometime maybe weekends is all the only time when it could be slow. Otherwise,
And
I'm
do you
very
walk?
fast.
Do you do mystery shopping in other brands?
I visit every brand possible because I think it's not about mystery shopping. I think it's more about learning what they're doing right and how can we do it better. And I think especially, I think every brand you can learn something from them. Everyone is doing something good. So there's always an opportunity to learn.
One brand or one company which you admire in India, which you think,
Oh, wow, that's a tough one.
which you think,
I think,
who's been
I
a
think,
success story in your opinion? I mean, I'm
I,
not mean success mean revenue. I mean,
I
which
think,
you think is somebody who's
yeah,
been something who's been successful to build in India?
I think Airtel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I think
believe as well.
beautiful success story. I could have said PVR also, but I think Airtel is the scale that they operate, the kind of things they have done. I think it's wonderful, and especially not having any collaboration, standing out all the time on your own. It's a lot of work and effort. I think brilliant job done by them.
Oh, even I'm a big fan, and I think they've understood the Indian consumer, and they've got the world. The best telecom companies came and failed in India compared to them, and they could get the best technology offering. So they never compromised on giving the offering to the customer. They never compromised on that.
No background of a very large corporate, right?
Yeah,
Individuals
absolutely.
who started the business, believed and grew and learned every day, built such a large business, top 10 companies in India. I think it's a great job done by the group and the people there. So I think Airtel stands out for me.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate your time, Vineet. It was really, really nice having a chat with you.
Thanks, Pankaj.
And wish you and the bestseller team lots of more success. I think when we do this session once again with you, it should have multiplied by multiple folds. But it was great chatting up with you. And I thank you very much for taking time off from your schedule. I know it's busy days and challenging days, but I'm sure everything works out well in the next few days and few months for all of us. And also like to thank our sponsors. And also I would like to thank Mappic India for organizing this. Thank you so much, Vinny.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you, Mappic India. Thank you. Wonderful talking. Bye.
Bye.